Hey authors, welcome to Author Nation. I am Melody Ann, and in this video, I am going to talk about something I call poetry of words. So we're going to talk about poetry of words, also called the iceberg theory in literature. If you look up Hemingway iceberg theory, you'll find information about it there. So very simply, it's about taking out everything that can be removed and bringing it down to a skeleton of a story so the audience can fill in their details. So as I said, Hemingway came up with the iceberg theory, and what he said was the deeper meaning of a story shouldn't be evident at the surface of the story, but should be implicit instead. It should be underneath. So Hemingway, if you've ever read Hemingway, you'll realize he omitted parts of the story because he felt that that strengthened the story, and he wanted to avoid waste in a story. I call it poetry of words because in poetry, you only use the words you must use. You only use the words you need. Poetry is not verbose. It can be very stark, and that's one of the reasons why poetry is so beautiful. It's starkness, but its starkness doesn't mean it's empty. It has this great depth within that starkness. And if you ever want to improve your writing in that way, write poetry. It will really help you understand that need for just so few words, so that you can also have more information packed into and more beauty packed into fewer words. All right, I'm going to give you just 5 simple ideas to help you write in that same way, to help you with poetry of your words. Number 1, explicit versus implicit storytelling. Let's give you an example. Let's say that you're talking about childhood memories, walking through the door and smelling the dessert that your mother used to bake that you loved so much. And so it might be for you chocolate cake. So you might say, I walked through the door, I could smell the chocolate cake wafting from the kitchen, my favorite dessert my mother made. Or you could say, I could smell my favorite dessert that my mother made wafting through the kitchen to the door. And so if you say chocolate cake, the reader thinks chocolate cake. You have given them the information. But if you say my favorite dessert that my mother made, they will go back to the favorite dessert that their mother made, and their nostalgia will come up. And so you can see by leaving out that detail, you're allowing them to fill that in, and they will have more of an emotional connection to that. So that's really simple. Let me read you 2 paragraphs. Number 1. Whenever a boy pulled my pigtails, some adult told me that it was because he liked me. So when he swung the bat, pretending not to see me and hitting me across the jaw, I decided he must like me. I didn't like him back. And although I liked boys in general, I couldn't see me putting up with this the rest of my life. I had to get out, so I ran home. As I stepped through the door, I could smell my mother's mocha cake wafting through the house. I went to the table and sat down, hoping dinner was ready and that I would never have to cook a meal for a man. I was just a kid after all, right? So that's a lot of information. If your audience are women, there's a lot of that they don't need, like, pulled my pigtails, he must like me. You could reduce it. In fact, you could really reduce it like Hemingway might if he were a woman and wrote about women's rights rather than being a womanizer, which he was. It might come out something like this. He swung the bat, pretending not to see me. It cracked across my jawline. He must like me. I didn't like him back, and I did not want to grow up. I ran. As I stepped through the door, I could smell my mother's baking wafting through the house. I sat at the table, hopeful. So much has been removed from that, and so now the reader gets to decide what you're hopeful about. In the first one, it was like hoping that dinner was ready and hoping that I didn't have a relationship like that. But in the second one, the reader gets to fill it in. It's so much better for the reader when they get to fill in the details, when they get to kind of take their own life and apply it to what they're reading. They get so much more out of it. So I know that a lot of writers want to say, I really want them to understand me. It's like they will understand you, but within your context. So number 1, explicit versus implicit storytelling. Number 2, word choice and avoiding or removing all unnecessary words. We have our favorite words and we like to put them in to our books 50, 100, 200 times. When I'm editing, I can always tell you what your favorite words are. And then I often say, let's figure out how not to use the same word over and over and over again. And it's normal. I'm not saying that people, aren't skilled writers. We have habits. We have lots of habits as humans. Writing, we have habits, and that's normal. So removing or avoiding unnecessary words and thinking about your word choice. Adverbs are a big one. I often see, and of course, you'll hear writers say or editors say, take out the adverbs, take out the adverbs. Yes, take out the adverbs. But if you are going to use an adverb, if it is necessary, don't say very big. Say enormous. Don't say walked softly. Say tiptoed. Like never say tiptoed quietly, because people don't generally tiptoe loudly. So you don't need the word quietly. Sometimes I see things like very unique. You don't need very in front of unique. That's what unique means. It means that it's one of a kind. And so you can't be very unique. You're already one of a kind. How can you be very that? So stay away from words like very, really, quite. They intensify, but they don't carry meaning. So if you can instead take away the intensifier and find a better word. So like really smart becomes intelligent or genius. Moved quickly becomes darted. Said rudely becomes retorted. So find the right word for what you want to say, rather than falling back on very, really, and things like that. And take out all those low content information words. Actually, as necessary, it is considered desirable, the end result during that time, in fact, in order to, at the rate of, you just take out all of those words that, they're great in reports for your boss, but not great in the book you're writing. So take out all those unnecessary words. Take out all the weak words. It's just this, it's possibly that, it tends to this, it seems to be, it's somewhat, it's currently, actually started. We began, I don't know how many times I'm editing books and we started to do this, we started to do that, we started to walk to the store. No, we walked to the store. Unless there's a reason to say we started, don't say it. We started to walk to the store but was interrupted by, that makes sense. We started to walk to the store and we bought this. That doesn't make sense. We walked to the store and bought this. So take out all those unnecessary words. Take out all those weak words. I'll give you some examples. Possibly fighting for justice. No, you're not possibly fighting for justice. You're fighting for justice. He seems to be taking it hard. No, he's taking it hard. He tends not to want to talk after practice. He never wants to talk after practice. He doesn't want to talk after practice. Even take out never. Well, actually, when I started to go to the hospital, it was a long way. So when I arrived, I was so tired. The hospital was a long way. I was tired when I arrived. Just use the words you need. That's it. Number 3, this is to bring poetry to your writing. Use alliteration. So alliteration is the repetition of a consonant sound, not a vowel sound, but a consonant sound like b, d, t, d, g, r, s, w, not the a, e, I, o, u, right? And so I'm going to read you a couple. The rain pitter-pattered on the window pane. That's an alliteration versus the rain fell lightly against the window. The rain pitter-pattered on the window pane is just, it just flows really nicely. The willow wailed as the wind whistled past. The willow tree made noises as the wind picked up. Doesn't sound as nice. The wind wailed as the wind whistled past. The willow wailed as the wind whistled past, pardon me. Don't be afraid to use poetic devices to bring poetry to your words. And when you are revising your work, feel free to read it out loud to yourself to hear how it sounds, because that's what's going on with your reader. Another great example is to use anaphora. Anaphora is starting a few or several phrases or sentences in the same way. You can either use the same structure, grammatical structure to do this, or you can use the exact same words. And here's a little example of that. When I lived in Peru, I would have tested positive for cocaine use, yet I'd never done cocaine. But I did travel in the mountains, and in Peru, coca tea is used to combat altitude sickness. Coca leaves are used to overcome fatigue, hunger, and thirst. Coca leaves are used as a painkiller for headaches. Coca leaves are used for their essential minerals and vitamins. Coca leaves have a bad rap. And so what's happened there is there are 3 longer sentences all starting the same. And then the fourth sentence, which is much shorter, so it kind of changes the tone. And then you're using similar structure as well, but you're shortening it up. And so don't, another poetic device, Anaphora. Read your stuff out loud, you'll get a sense of how it flows. And just like poetry, number 5, think about the rhythm. And this is where it really counts when you're reading it out loud. Read things out loud. If you're reading things out loud and you're tripping over them, it's probably not a good way to write it. If you're reading it out loud and it has this lovely rhythm, but here's the thing, you don't want that same rhythm over and over and over again, because you will lull your readers to sleep. So you do want, although you want rhythm, you want to be able to change the rhythm, like throw in a short sentence when you want to make a powerful statement. That will break the rhythm and the reader will realize this is important. So you can use rhythm. You can use that sense of like pausing. A short sentence is kind of like a pause, right? Or like a punch, like boom, here we go. So use that rhythm to help people understand where you are even emotionally in the story. So there you have it, 5 ways to bring poetry to your writing. If you bring poetry to your writing, you will have much stronger writing and so much stronger storytelling. So bring poetry of words to your writing, to your storytelling, and really allow your reader to dive in, believe in your story in their own way, in their own world, and to make it something beautiful to read, so they want to read it themselves, read it again, and refer it out to others. That's it. I have lots more videos on storytelling, so go ahead. I'll put the playlist in the description, so go check out the other videos on storytelling and enjoy your day.